3 lifelong friends, 6 trusty balls, and endless NFL takes. Welcome to 3 Guys, 6 Balls NFL podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 57 of 3 Guys, 6 Balls. I am, unfortunately, your host today, Will, here for the first time, long time listener, first time caller, it seems like Avery, David Grass. How you doing, Avery?
I'm good. Happy to be back.
Truly glad to have you. Some idiot, unfortunately, approved Joel's vacation time during any week that we record, which happens to be 52 weeks of the year. I don't know who did that, but Joel's off celebrating somebody's birthday. I think it's his sister-in-law's birthday, which she's older than 12. So at this point, what are we celebrating? Whatever, not the point. Not my thing, whatever. David Avery Grass, large news in your world. Me or you? Who's going first here?
You can go ahead.
I feel like you should go first here.
Your boy got engaged.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Yep.
What's his name?
Derek.
That is
actually
just a joke.
For anyone watching this, whoever does watch this is the first time I've publicly said that. It's not on my Instagram. It's not on my Facebook. Not that I ever really go on either, but yeah, so for all the 4 people that listen, you heard it here first. I'm an engaged man, and the wedding will be sooner rather than later because we're not about this waiting life. So
Well, and you're in your 30s, and so your eggs are drying up, so you got to get moving quick, right?
My eggs never dropped. My balls did, but the eggs stayed wherever they were.
Fair enough. Listen, apparently we're supposed to talk football. Joel's not here, right? So, we can do whatever we want to do. What's he going to do? Tell us no? He's going to corral us back into being on topic?
He can't do anything.
He can't do anything. This is going to be episode 57, the unusable episode will be the title of this one. It will go straight into the cutting room floor the entire time. Now, unfortunately, it is near 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here while we're recording, a bit later than normal, and I don't have very long, so this will already be a truncated episode, so I guess we just jump right in. I'm going to start off with a question like Joel likes to, and I think this has been a question we've asked before, or Joel's asked before on this show, but I'm going to re-ask it. What to you, Avery, makes a franchise quarterback?
I know where this is leading, but I want to say I think there's a lot of rubrics for success that you could look at here.
Absolutely.
I feel like, ask that question one more time so I make sure I say it right.
What to you, Avery, makes a franchise quarterback?
Being able to win with the roster you've been given.
Okay. And so I will take your answer, and that is a wonderful feed into my follow-up question. So if the ultimate success is winning the Super Bowl, how long after reaching that success do you have to ride that success, right? So if you, like Peyton Manning, when he won it at the Colts, he continued to be successful at the Colts and eventually had neck surgery, and they said, hey, we're going to go a different direction. Okay, so that's an extreme example, but how long after reaching that pinnacle, like for instance, let's take another example. Let's take Patrick Mahomes. Let's say he doesn't win one. He won one 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Now it can't have been that long, truly. He was at one 2 years ago against the Eagles. How long did the Chiefs give him until they say, hey, we need to move on and find somebody else? I mean, we can't possibly quantify that, right?
No. Oh, I would say really it's just with the quarterback. He is still, I would argue, the quarterback. I mean, I guess depending on the era of football that you're playing, in general, is the most important player you have on your team. There are important players on the team, but if you wanted to have the best of any position on your team, I would assume quarterback would be the one you would want to have the best of. That being said, I feel like, there are times, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, it's like, look, Joe Burrow's got the goods, but clearly everyone can see this team is not where it needs to be. And so they're not going to put as much pressure on him to win, because even then, if you win, maybe you make the playoffs, maybe, and then you don't go anywhere because you're playing teams that have a complete roster. So I think for the most part, it's more of a matter of, are you an impediment to the team? And I feel like sometimes the barometer for how a quarterback is doing is based on actual fans who watch the games, who keep tabs, usually the ones, and sometimes quarterbacks have more leeway than others, but the ones that are saying, we need to get the pieces around this quarterback. Those are usually the quarterbacks that are like doing their job and maybe a little bit more, but there's other pieces that just aren't there. That being said, only one quarterback can win the Super Bowl every year. And so no matter what, I mean, you get Peyton Manning. He won 2 Super Bowls, and it took him 20 years to do that. You got Drew Brees. He won 1 Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, he won 2. How many did he win? 1? Just 1.
Just one, yeah. One with
Just
with
one.
the Packers.
Now, the thing is the rest, those 3 guys in particular, with a total of 4 Super Bowls, we're not looking at them as those guys are I mean, they're all Hall of Famers for sure. And they're all in talks for, some of the greatest. They're not the greatest, but some of the greatest, definitely generationally. And they only won 4 Super Bowls combined out of how many seasons? 40? More? More, maybe? Probably more?
Oh, more for sure.
Yeah.
Between the 4 of them, more.
But between the 3, Manning, Brees, and Rodgers. But you look at that and it's like, okay, we're looking at statistics now. When you're looking at those guys, you're looking at statistics. You're looking at MVPs. You're looking at what they did as far as just prolific play. So when it comes down to the Super Bowl, it's like, well, we give them a pass because statistically they did great. They did great statistically. Okay, statistically leading to what? Meaning for individual play? No one cares about that. If you're a fan of a team, you want a Super Bowl. But anyway, I'm going to leave it right there because I feel like this is
that you are.
segue.
I keep teeing up balls and you keep crushing them out of the park.
Okay.
And just like this one, statistically and Super Bowl wise, we have a quarterback here whose team is unwilling to commit to long term, and I don't think they're wrong for doing it. Jalen Hurts, current quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Some execs from the Eagles have come out and said on record, and it's been talked about extensively, and it's always been executive sources, right? So no one's naming names, no one's saying who is saying it, but enough NFL insiders have talked about it to where it's like, okay, well, this must have some legitimacy to it. They've come out and said that they are not even thinking about talking about contract extensions with Jalen Hurts until he finishes this year. This year is his last year of guaranteed money. He is contracted through 28, I think, through this season, next season, and the season after, I believe, is his full contract. But he's only guaranteed money through this year. I think the other 2 years are voidable years. And so if you are Jalen Hurts, who is Super Bowl winner, won it once, been there twice, I think is how that goes, and yet your team is still not willing to commit to you long term. I think he might be the only case I can remember where we've had this level of, I don't know about this guy, even though he continuously takes you to the highest level. Even when they don't win a division, he's taking you deep into the playoffs, if not all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts, he's not that fantasy quarterback that's going to give you, Lamar Jackson numbers, Cam Newton rookie season numbers. He's going to win you games. And it was the same thing last season and the season before that. This season, even more so, where it was just like, dude, it's like he's not even putting up starting quarterback numbers, in fantasy. Yet
Right.
They're still winning. They're sneaking it out. They're pushing their way into wins, which, really, it's like, okay, a regular season win is a regular season win. Okay, it gets you closer to the Super Bowl, but it's really like, is this strategy going to win you a Super Bowl? And I don't think that was really the case. It was frustrating for every team that played them because they knew it was coming and they couldn't do anything to stop it. And Jalen Hurts didn't have to throw it as much. However, that being said, he's not throwing it as much. Okay, well, A.J. Brown's not getting the ball. You're creating an issue there. It is creating a lot of issues. You got him upset. You got fans upset that it's not getting to him. If they do lose a game, even if it's a winning strategy to not be throwing it to him, you now get blamed and say, well, it's because you're not throwing it to A.J. Brown. So I see this as, in one sense, I see the Eagles as like, hey, you can do what you want. If you think this is smart, if you think it's smart to escalate this drama with your franchise quarterback, just basically saying like, yeah, we're going to wait and see. We don't have that loyalty to you. But to me, I see it as like, look, okay, if we're talking about winning games here, I'm winning you games. If you want me to go out and put on a show, if you want me to go out there and just throw for 400 yards a game, 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, like if that's what it takes, then I guess I'll do that, even if I don't win games. But he's winning games. And that's the problem. I mean, I think even in the playoffs, I think I saw a stat, he's like 20 some touchdowns, 1 or 2 interceptions. Like he's playing very, very well. And so the question is though, is that because it's so unusual, has he just been coasting off of a good offense? Is he actually just doing what it takes to win? Because I think like we're used to good statistical quarterbacks are synonymous with winning quarterbacks, and so if he's not putting up the statistics and he's winning, surely it can't be him. It must be something else. But the reality is he has been winning. So it's, I mean, it really just comes down to him and his organization. But I see this as like, look, do you want wins or do you want stats? Because I'm giving you wins.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. The one thing I do disagree with is the Joe Burrow year a couple years ago, who was statistically the best quarterback, right? Most passing yards, most touchdowns, yada, yada, yada. Their team just had 6 wins. So his good statistical quarterbacks don't always turn into team wins. Now, their defense was atrocious. The Eagles cannot make that claim, right? The Eagles can't say,
Yep.
well, we had a bad defense. And when it came down to it in their Super Bowl against the Chiefs that they won, the Chiefs did everything they could to stop Saquon Barkley. And then Kellen Moore said, okay, fine. We have a quarterback. He can throw the ball. And so they did that. They threw the ball well. And he threw the ball very well in that Super Bowl. It's kind of like the opposite of Josh Allen. And I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, I know. But he doesn't do well in the regular season. I don't know if Hurts has, looking here real quick, Hurts has never thrown for 4,000 yards in one season, in one regular season. He's got a couple 600-yard rushing seasons, but mostly it's in the 4s and below. And so he doesn't perform well because he doesn't need to. That's not the game plan in the regular season. And then in the playoffs, when he has to, not that every time he has to, when he has to, he steps up and he goes out and wins the Super Bowl. He goes out and wins playoff games when he needs to. It's not Hurts' fault that they went and brought in Saquon Barkley, that they went and brought in, they drafted Devonta Smith. They brought in A.J. Brown from Tennessee. So they brought in all these good people, and then you brought in one of the best running backs in the league with one of the best offensive lines. Like, okay, well, let's just run the ball. That's really successful. That's consistently successful over the course of the entire football, like the history of it. At one point, it was illegal to throw a forward pass. And if it was an incomplete pass, after it was not illegal anymore, if it was an incomplete pass, that was a turnover. That's how far back that goes. And so it's just one of these, why are we hating on a guy who is doing things in the system incredibly well and proven well? With 2 years ago, he won the Super Bowl. And you can't say, well, Saquon Barkley, because he didn't. Barkley did not win that Super Bowl for him. Hurts put the team on his back when he had to, made the throws he needed to make. So I think, all that being said, to gas up Jalen Hurts, I think the Eagles are incredibly justified with this. We're not doing anything with this yet. We want to see how he does this year. So last question here on this before we move to our next topic. Do you think this is a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts, even though he won the Super Bowl 2 years ago?
Yeah, I would say so. In fact, if I was him, I mean, again, and this is assuming I understand the actual circumstances here, I would go to the coach and the front office and say, what do you expect of me? Do you want me to win games, or are you expecting me to put up stats? Like, I want to know what I need to do for you to consider this a success. If we want to run the ball, fine. He just seems like a guy who's, instead of out there, just making a lot of noise saying, I'm not getting my passes, A.J. Brown, I'm not getting my touches. Because he made a good point. If I don't get my touches, if I don't get my catches, if I don't get my yards, if I don't get my touchdowns, come the next contract, I'm going to get screwed. I don't care if that's on our game plan. This is my career. This is my livelihood we're talking about. And honestly, Jalen Hurts seems like the opposite, where he's like, I'm just doing whatever it takes to help this team win. I'm doing what they ask of me. And it seems like he's getting penalized for it. So on one hand, it's kind of sad to see this. But if I was him, I would go up and say, okay, then let's find out, what it is. What will success look like for you? And I hope that, honestly, I hope that he does well, and then, maybe some other team offers him a better contract later. I don't know. I mean, I guess you can't really offer it to him while he's still got, a couple years left in Philly, but, you know, come the next contract, it's like, hey, I'm going to remember this, like you guys are slighting me here. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you still got 3 years. Calm down. Like, so.
Selfishly, I can't help but think from the Rams' point of view, right? You've got one good year of Matt Stafford left. Maybe you can squeeze out a second one. I mean, people already thought that this year was a squeeze out year, or this last year we just had, because he started the season, and a lot of people forget this. There was talks that Jimmy G was going to start the season because Stafford had to hurt back. And so he obviously didn't happen that way. Stafford played the whole season, played very well, won MVP.
Very
Not
well.
bragging or anything, no big deal. But then we move on, and now we're at this year, and it feels like the Rams are going full in on winning the Super Bowl this year. And I think if they do, or if they get really close, I think that Stafford does ride off into the sunset, Peyton Manning style, where he wins the Super Bowl, and then in his post-game interview, cracks a Budweiser and says, "All right, that's it for me. I'm retiring. See y'all later." And now we can't stop saying Peyton Manning. He's everywhere on ESPN. But anyway, where I was going with this was this will be Jalen Hurts' sixth year in a row. I think every single year he has had a different offensive coordinator, which we talked about, and you can see it with the Bears, right?
Yep.
You saw it with the Bears last year. That coach does actually matter. I was big in the what difference does a coach make? And then I had egg all over my face when Ben Johnson took the Bears way deeper than they should have gone. And so I think it really matters. They've got Sean Mannion, Oregon State legend Sean Mannion, and as their offensive coordinator this year. And so we'll see what happens. But I'm really interested to see how it goes. And where I was going with this whole Rams take is that it's possible that, hey, some veteran quarterbacks are going to be on the open market, like we saw this year with Joe Flacco and Kirk Cousins. There were others. Tua was on the open market for a while. I mean, the Kyler Murray, these guys were, and most of these guys ended up being linked back to the Rams. Of like, well, maybe they have them sit for a year. But I think we'll be in the same cycle next year with, all right, who is going to stay on their team? Teams are so quick to move on from their players who don't give you immediate success, or in this case, even when they have given you recent success, we just won the Super Bowl, yeah, but you didn't play well your Super Bowl year, and you didn't play well the year following your Super Bowl year, and so this year you have to play well, you're not going to be our team anymore. Let's not forget, Peyton Manning got benched multiple times the year they won that Super Bowl for none other than Brock Osweiler. Okay, so expecting these guys now, Peyton Manning had like 1,000 years under his belt and 4 neck surgeries. Okay, so it's different circumstances. I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is Peyton Manning, but I'm just trying to relate true fact with maybe we need to give some reality here, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Moving on, we're kind of segue topic, and then we'll get into our actual topic here. So the draft is at the end of this month. I think the draft starts in 23 days or something like that, right? No, 23 days would be the 30th. Is it 13 days? It would be the 20th, so 14 days. That's not right. It doesn't matter. It starts on the 23rd of April.
Oh, 23rd.
And so we are, I think it's 23rd, right?
It's the 23rd, then it's like
NFL
16 days.
Draft day. Pardon my Google search. Yeah, April 23rd. Crushed it.
16 days.
Yeah, so 16 days until the draft day, and it came out this last weekend, maybe today, maybe earlier. Fernando Mendoza is not attending, so potential number 1 pick, had a consensus number 1 pick, Fernando Mendoza. Everyone has him going to the Raiders, even though the Raiders just signed Kirk Cousins. Specifically, yeah. Raiders just signed Kirk Cousins, but they're still consensus number 1 pick overall is Fernando Mendoza. It has come out that he is not going to attend the NFL draft. He will be with his family in Miami. It was easier for him to spend, and more important for him, to spend his time with his family in Miami than it was to get his family all the way to Pittsburgh. Actually, probably more convenient too. And so, any thoughts on this? I mean, it's kind of a non-topic, but just something to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, I mean, it's a topic, but it's at the same time, it's a non-topic. I'm like, this guy can do whatever he wants. In fact,
right.
If anything, I see this as a green flag. It's like, oh, he's deciding to move away from the glitz and glamour of, being in the green room and having all the cameras on him and instead decides to spend it with his family. It's the last time he's going to be with them for a while, before, moving to Vegas. Also, just going back to what you said earlier, I think Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza is going to be awesome. I already thought that they seem very similar, just at least in terms of their facial structure and their kind of family life. Like they both seem very family oriented. Vegas does not seem like a great fit for either of them, but I think as long as they have each other's back, I think it'd be a really great fit. I'm excited to see it.
I hope we get a video. So NFL's going to send a whole production crew down to Miami to be there, right?
No, yeah.
And in 2007, when Joe Thomas was picked, he was fishing. And he's like, I'm not doing this whole thing. I'm going to go fishing. And he did. And the NFL sent the thing out, and they were like, you can record me, but you're not coming on my boat. I don't actually know if they were on the boat or not. But Joe Thomas's draft day was spent fishing on a boat. And so Fernando Mendoza just doing it at his house. Nothing will beat the George Pickens at his house photo with him wearing the balaclava, the shiesty, if you will. I mean, nothing will ever beat that. So that and who is it? No, Nikola Jokic, who got drafted in the middle of a Taco Bell commercial. Just some notable, wonderful draft moments by some all-time players here. Not that Fernando Mendoza is an all-time player, but, who knows one day. Okay, moving on. So we've got some more prospects to talk about because, again, the draft is in 16 days. Notable here, Avery, just because you did miss it, Lee Hunter, notable Lee Hunter hater right here. Lee Hunter has moved down almost out of the top 100. I have not checked the recent rankings, but he was 80, 83, 86 something last time we talked about it. So I feel pretty justified in continuously moving him down the list. So
yeah,
that was
great.
all. I just wanted to get my Lee Hunter hate in. I don't see a lot of room for Lee Hunter hate this week. So there's that. All right, let me figure out how to share my screen. Our first guy up, hold on, I'm new to this whole hosting thing. All right, can you see this okay? Oh, yeah.
I can.
This is clutch. All right, so our first guy up, Colton Hood, cornerback out of Tennessee. And for those who have done any amount of research on any Tennessee corners, and you see somebody doing well on the field, it's Colton Hood. If you see somebody not on the field, that's Jermon McCoy. So this is the guy from Tennessee that actually played all season and is still rated below the other guy who's been out for 16 months with an ACL tear. Avery, thoughts on Colton Hood?
I think he's great. I guess the only thing really that I notice is just his hands. I think he might be getting a little too overzealous with his hands, getting called for penalties and stuff. I think besides that, I think he's very well-rounded. I think he's just solid. I think it really just comes down to just those little things. Hopefully coaching can, kind of get that out or at least hide it well enough from the refs. Just gets really handsy. But again, I think he's very sharp. He reacts quickly to the ball. And yeah, unlike McCoy, he's actually been out there proving it. So
yeah, I agree. Incredibly aggressive jam corner. 6 foot tall, 193 pounds. He's got a good frame. He's got elite closing speed. He's a 4.4 speed kind of guy. And he will only continue to improve. He only started he's only got 1 year of starting experience in college. He sat behind Travis Hunter at Colorado, transferred to Tennessee after sitting out a year before transferring to Colorado, or redshirting a year, excuse me. My only issue with him is that his best coverage comes in 10 yards, right? Where you can get your hands on the guy and you can redirect him and you can really be on him like glue. In the NFL, that drops down to 5 yards. It's 5 yards in college, but they play it softer. The thing with the NFL is that it is a receiver's game. And so receivers are going to get that call. And so he's going to have to tone down his aggressive play style, which is not going to benefit him at all. He had a significant amount of penalties last year because of his aggressive play style, and that's only going to get worse as he moves in the NFL because they call it so tight. And so corners have the hardest job in the game behind quarterbacks personally, to where they have to do everything the offense is doing as they're doing it without knowing what they're doing, but they also can't make any contact. He does get his head around well, receiver in high school, and so he high points the ball really well and gets up for the 50-50 balls and wins a lot of them because of his aggressive play style. I just think that he's going to have to really work on that in the NFL because of how tight they call these receiver corner matchups.
Yeah.
And it's weird there's only two of us. I'm waiting for a third opinion here. And
yeah, Joel, show up.
Yeah, Joel, what do you have to say? All right, cool. Glad you're here. Cool. I'm enjoying the beach in Southern California.
Yeah.
That is actually where he's at.
That's what he sounds like, too.
That's exactly what he sounds like. Okay, all right, so our next guy here is KC Concepcion, wide receiver, Texas A&M. Avery?
I mean, this guy, he started at NC State, and I remember seeing him play. The thing is he's one of those shifty dudes. I'm curious to see how they'll use him in the NFL. I feel like in college, both at Texas A&M, but more specifically at NC State, when he was a tough guy to guard. But the thing is, most of his touches were behind the line of scrimmage, like plays directly set up for him. And the thing is, defenses knew it was coming, and he's still getting around them. So I'm very curious to see. I feel like he could really find his niche if the right team picks him. That being said, I don't know. It's the reason I'm optimistic is because defenses knew it was coming and they still couldn't stop him. I think all I saw was just some I think Joel wrote it in here. This is the drops more specifically, and maybe it was just the drops, where it's like he's not necessarily a go out and, in traffic catch these balls. Let's get the ball, and then on a dime, he's off to the races. So I'd be really curious to see how teams utilize this guy.
Like you said, he was at NC State first and went to Texas A&M. 3-year starter, I think 2 at NC State, 1 at Texas A&M. And then all he did in those 3 years was lead the team in both receptions and yards every single year. Even his freshman year, where he did not even start all the games. He played in all the games, but he did not start them. And so quickly became a starter at NC State and then moved on to bigger and better pastures. Last year, he converted 10 of 15 contested catches, which is great, except for the fact that when you watch his film, he'll have wide open slant routes over the middle of the field in the end zone, and it's almost like the moment gets too big for him. And like you said, he just dropped the ball. Uncontested catch. I noticed a lot of times that he was jumping. Like a slant route could have hit him right in the hands, and he would jump to catch it. And that's some real middle school stuff that you got to stop doing. But he finds the open zone. He finds the hole in the zone very well. He only plays at 1 speed, which normally is a very good thing. As a receiver, you do want to change that speed up every once in a while. It's hard to double move when you don't have a slowdown and speed back up. He doesn't have top end speed, so he just plays all out all the time. He's got a compact build, which limits his catch radius with physical corners around, but he does bring a physical edge that belays his side and allows him to get the ball when he needs to. Again, 10 of 15 contested catch opportunity wins this last season. So I like what he's got going on a lot. We've had, this is what, our 6th, 5th, something like that, wide receiver we've talked about. So a lot of really good day 1, early day 2 wide receivers in the draft this year. It's a good year to need a receiver. It's a bad year to need a corner. So, yeah. Again, also a proven return specialist here we've got written down. He's got, I think he had 2 punt return touchdowns this last season, which 2 in 1 season sounds like a little bit. 2 in the season is actually quite a bit for punt returns. And so if you bring him in and you don't have room as a receiver in your lineup, he can play special teams, kick return, punt return. Because again, he's only got 1 speed. When he gets the ball, he just runs full out. It may not be as fast as everybody else, but it is all out every single time.
It's shifty too.
Very shifty. Anything else?
No.
All right, let's move on to our next guy. We're going to chase this one down with Chase Bisontis. Bisontis, I believe. You know what? I usually start with offensive linemen. I'd like it to be noted, this is our 2nd offensive guard. All right, we've talked about 1 guard so far. This is our 2nd.
Really?
Yes. We have also only talked, Emmanuel Pregnon. No.
Oh, yeah. Pregnon, yep.
Yeah, Pregnon from Oregon. He gets honorable mention. He was talked about on the show. Your cousin Gavin did mention him. The Seahawks taking him with pick 31. I don't hate that. He is actually 3rd on most people's guard lists overall. Chase Bisontis started as a tackle, and they moved him inside to guard, which I think was an incredibly wise choice. I would like to talk about the bad and then the good. Bad first, good second, and then to summarize at the very end here. The problem is he's got a bit shorter arms. His hands arrived late, and with short arms, that's really bad. He is not very technically refined for interior rushers. He's got His hips open too early in pass sets. He exposing a softer inside shoulder. He's 6'5" and his pad level stands way too tall often. His first contact is very inconsistent and oftentimes too high. And when you're getting these defensive tackles, and even linebackers who are coming in hot and heavy right at the snap, if your pad level's too high, you're just going to get bullied. Additionally, over the last 3 seasons, he had 19 total penalties, which when you're talking 5 and 10 yard penalties, especially if they're holding penalties, those are drive killers. That's a very common thing that people say. And so if you're getting holding penalties because you're getting beat, now your 1st and 10 goes to 1st and 20, and it's like, all right, well, we're way behind the sticks, and we have to play a lot of makeup. Now, the good here, he has incredible short area quickness and very fast foot speed for an interior lineman, which is why they moved him from tackle into guard. He can get underneath defenders despite his height to win leverage early. He does it inconsistently. He has a balanced pass protection set. And can mirror tackles well. Good core strength, and he has a good low center of gravity when he needs to. But mostly, he's an effective puller and move blocker. That's his biggest thing, is that he's better in the run game because he's so fast and athletic that he's incredibly effective in the run game, where he's pulling and moving out and setting an edge on the outside for the run to open up. He stays active and attentive, which when you're a pulling guard and you get to your end and there's nobody there, it's hard to, okay, well, I guess job done. But he stays active and attentive. And then, so summary here is a team who drafts Bisontis gets a guard who can compete for a starting spot right out of the gate. His combine confirmed his athleticism. People questioned it. When he was at the combine, he confirmed it, which that has him shot up the draft boards a bit. His technique needs significant refinement. His hand timing needs a lot of work and leverage consistency, but the physical tools and competitive makeup are there. Yeah, he fits best in a system that values movement and physicality over just pure anchor strength, because he's going to get beat in pass sets and he's going to need help. They're going to have to shift pass blocking to his side more often than not. I didn't leave a lot of room there, but anything to add?
No, I thought he was, from the tape I saw, I think just that the first point in his strengths, that the active feet that allow him to mirror movement, I thought he did a really, really good job. I mean, I know he's got, his physicals, he's got short arms for someone of his size. That being said, I saw, whether that's technique or talent, his ability to, when he maybe gets overpowered, to then adjust and basically neutralize the pass rusher, the run, just the edge, I think is really good. From what I saw, he seemed like a solid guard. I mean, and to be fair, I'm not too familiar or experienced with some of these physical traits like hand size, arm length, and how that, equates to, NFL success. I hear that, it is very important, and I believe it. But from what I saw, he seemed like a solid guard. And what I mean by that is not a liability, which is really, to me, he had 1 sack allowed. I guess the penalties do worry me a little bit. That being said, I thought he looked solid, and I'm not a great evaluator of these interior linemen.
When comparing him to the only other guard we've talked about, Vanderbilt, I think I crushed that. I think I said it multiple times last week and butchered it every time. I actually think I got that one. That's my red flag, right? Like, I think I spoke well. Chances are I butchered that. I'm not going to try again. The Penn State guard, when comparing the two of them, there is a pretty large gap. Like, you've got a mid-first round guy. Well, he's well above. He's going to get drafted well below his talent level. Vanderbilt, he is like truly top 10 talent level. It's just the value of guard is not that high, especially this year. Teams value tackles way higher. And so the gap between the two, I think, is almost as large as the gap between the first two tight ends. And I think it's not as big, but it's almost as big. We've really talked about one running back so far in all of our players. And so obviously the gap there is pretty large. I think that the Chase here, he's going to be great. He's going to be an absolute solid piece. Like I said, he will compete for a starting job right from training camp, right after he gets drafted. He's going to show up. He's going to do the work. There's just a lot of refinement that needs to happen to be a consistently solid piece at the next level. Because what you don't want is your, I think it's Sam, nope, what is the Bradford? Whatever the Bradford guy from Seattle is that there are literal not web pages, but Facebook pages, profiles, and Instagram profiles
Oh,
made just to talk how bad this guy is
yeah.
at pass blocking. And that's the thing with guards is they focus so much on run blocking that their pass blocking often suffers because they want them to pull them, they want them to do this, they want them to do that, and so it's well, I'm going to work on all this, and then this is going to be a huge gap in my knowledge, and so having one guy who can do both is incredibly rare. And I think Chase has a good enough work ethic and has shown improvement every single year. And so I think he will get there. It's just he's not there currently.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about our next guy, Caleb Banks, defensive tackle, Florida. Hey, why don't you
You
start
know,
again?
yeah, to me, well, I don't even think it's debatable. This guy has some of the craziest, what do you call it? Measurables of anybody. I think in the combine, he was like 95th percentile at least in like every single category. Dude just has troubles with the fundamentals, like just
Yes.
making those tackles. And so it's just interesting that it's basically his pro day in the combine that is keeping him this high up. But I don't know if, again, not an NF, I'm not a trainer. I don't know how easy it is, how I guess coachable it is to be able to teach a player at this point in time these skill sets, because he's got all the tools. And I feel like most of these guys, whether it's defensive tackles or linemen, it just seems like the guys with the shorter arms have the mental abilities, and the guys with the longer arms don't have those mental abilities. And it's just like, hey, you can't change the physical, but can you change the mental? You know, this too many arm tackles, poor finishing angles right there. Fatigues easily, sees effectiveness decline, plays way too tall with high pad level. This to me just sounds like I'm watching The Blind Side, but on the other side of the line. Just like, hey, this guy who's got all the tools, like some white woman needs to come over and show him how to play the position.
Needs to get in a car wreck and get his hand over really fast.
Yeah. That being said, if you've got a defensive line that's already got some scary guys on it, I'll bet this guy would be a great fit there. It's just a matter of, can you get him ready? I don't know if I would want to rely on this guy, but having another, a 1-2 punch with him, I think would be sweet.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I would like to add he was a 4-year player in college. He was at Louisville for a year and then transferred to Florida in 23, played in Florida 23, 24, and then played 25, but he had a foot injury that required surgery. And so I've got two words here that are going to scare you as a basketball fan. Greg Oden, right?
Ooh.
All the potential in the world. I mean, Caleb Banks is not being rated near as high, but incredibly athletic. Understands maybe, I guess I don't know specifically, but I think understands the concept of football. Just doesn't know how to play defensive line. And when you are 6'6", 330 pounds, if you're already having foot surgery at age 23, your power as a offensive and defensive lineman, your power is driven through your feet. You need your feet to be the anchor between you and the ground. Obviously, that is a no duh statement, but it is more so with offensive and defensive line because not only like a receiver, you're moving yourself as a corner, you're moving yourself as an offensive defensive line. In this case, defensive tackle, you are trying to move yourself and another 300 plus pound human through your feet. And if you're already having foot surgery, that is a huge red flag to me. The size matters. Pardon me. The measurables here matter when you're talking about foot surgery and ankle surgery and knee surgery when you are moving other humans like this. And so like you said, Avery, like this thing says here, he's incredibly athletic. He just has no idea how to play defensive line. He gets destroyed by double teams. He plays way too tall. His technique is not good. he brings raw power and raw athleticism, as we talked about, with heavy hands and a hot motor that doesn't necessarily stop, which is not always a good thing. But again, he played 4 years in college. He did not, 1 year he had surgery, so we'll call it 3 1/3 years in college, and it just never got better. He never improved. And at what point at Florida in the SEC, it was those defensive line coaches down there. I don't know who his defensive tackle coach, defensive line coach, defensive coordinator was down there at Florida. But at some point, you would assume after 2 full years there, you would see his technique and his abilities improve, and it just didn't happen. And so those are all huge red flags. Things I don't put him. I don't put him. I mean, he's kind of like the opposite of Lee Hunter, right? Lee Hunter is very technically sound, very unathletic. Here we've got very athletic, very not technically sound. And so it is a weird, well, how do you rank this? And the problem is you don't draft a guy like this in day 2. This is a day 3 guy, and you're drafting on hopes and dreams, where you're spending a 5th, 6th round pick. And so I like Caleb Banks a lot. I just would not. He's going to go near the bottom of our top 50, unfortunately, when we eventually get around to ranking those guys. Okay, I think we've got time for one more guy before I have to take off, because again, I had to change the slide. Next guy up is Eli Stowers. Stowers? Who thought this was the name I trip up on? This is our second tight end we're talking about. So we reached our second guard and our second tight end today.
This is the guy that I think, is going to be directly compared to Kenyon Sadiq. Kind of the same way that Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland will be seen for the next, basically their whole careers, honestly. This guy isn't even a real tight end, first of all. He doesn't block like a tight end.
Could not agree more.
He played quarterback a couple years ago. He basically has just been like, I don't know if he was Diego Pavia's roommate, but basically traveled around with him. Played at New Mexico State, whatever it was, and then to Vanderbilt. Played quarterback, switched to tight end. He doesn't have the ability to play tight end at the highest level. I think it's great to see how well he has done. This dude reminds me of like Marcus Colston. This dude is a big slot receiver. That being said, I think he's really good. I think he's really good as that receiver. If you put him in your scheme and you're expecting him to block, I don't think you're going to be very happy. But I mean, I think didn't Stowers have the highest vertical leap next to Sadiq?
So they go in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
And so Sadiq jumped and set the record. And I believe next up was Stowers and jumped and broke Sadiq's record.
That's
and so Sadiq held the record for like 2 minutes or something like that.
That's funny. But yeah, I think that both of these guys, I mean, I think they're both special. Stowers, though, he is a tight end, I guess, but I would really consider using him as a big slot receiver. I mean, again, maybe he can develop. Maybe, somebody's got, something in mind for how they can utilize him a little bit better. But I do think that I always think it's interesting when, a quarterback switches positions to anything, honestly. It just shows how much of an athlete that person is. I think, honestly, just in general, as a receiver, he is really good. It might be just because he was playing tight end that he was able to get, a little more open. Maybe he got a little more disrespected. I'd like to believe that SEC defenses and, scouts, just game planning for him, knew what he was capable of, but still wasn't able to stop him. So I still like Sadiq as the top tight end and honestly the overall better player. But I think Stowers is right there.
I agree with everything you said. He is too small for a tight end, too big for a receiver. Personally, he should cut about 20 pounds or so, maybe 10, 15 pounds, and play slot. That way he can gain his speed. Because in the NFL, it's not going to work the way they did it at Vanderbilt. He was only on the field as a blocker for 127 of 307 rushing plays. And that just doesn't work to stay in the NFL roster as a tight end. Now, he did miss one game, and so they had rushing attempts where he didn't play that game. And so the stats are kind of off a little bit. Also, one thing to note here is that he plays slower than the combine tape shows. He ran really fast, but he does not play that fast on the field. And so something to note for. I think slot fits him very well for that reason. Again, he's not going to be your main guy. He's not going to be your standout, but he will be a good key fit guy. At 6'4", he has an incredible catch radius, and I think that he's going to be a wonderful player. He just kind of needs to pick, and personally, he should. It may not be easier to drop the weight than put weight on, but he's going to have to put on about 30 or so pounds of not fat but muscle to be an effective blocking tight end and also receiving, or just drop 10 to 15 pounds. Again, neither are easy, but with the money that NFL teams have in their nutrition and things like that, they will get it figured out. Somebody will take him probably late day 2 and probably draft him as a receiver and then just say, this is what we're going to do. And that's probably going to be the phone calls, is they're going to go to draft him. Hey, are you willing to play receiver for us? Yes or no? Okay, we're going to draft you then. Or I'd rather play tight end. Okay, we're moving on. So
Yep.
I think he'll have to make the decision very quickly on draft days. But yeah, here we are.
Sweet.
Avery, anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm glad to have you back. I believe next week, I almost hit stop recording. I wanted to stop sharing. There we go. That would have been bad. Next week, I think we got a full barn. I think all 3 of us are here next week, so that should be good. Get the boys back together. We've had 2 guys conveniently steal 6 balls every single week, so we don't need to talk about the hows and the whys. But yeah, that's all for today. Thank you for joining us this week on 3 Guys, 6 Balls, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye now, y'all. Also, Mark Davis's haircut still sucks.